if you Google the documentary on Amazon Prime, The Hat Man, I think it's called The Hat Man, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. And the experiences that they talk about in that documentary, not only are almost verbatim what I experienced, but the experience itself is so
similar.
I'm getting goosebumps right now thinking about it. The shape of the hat, it's a shadow man that you see, but the shape of the shadow man is a tall shadow of a man standing there with a wide brimmed hat and a trench coat. It's a long trench coat. So
similar to like Jeepers Creepers.
Yeah, exactly with Jeepers. Who knows if the person who wrote Jeepers Creepers probably based the character off the Hat Man. You know what I'm saying? Because in Jeepers Creepers, you get this like ominous, like dark vibe the moment he's around, and you hear the song, and it kind of gives you fucking goosebumps. You know? Well, a lot of people, including my experience with this too, report when they see the Hat Man being overcome with a sense of dread and fear. And this is my experience with it too. But anyways, so real quick, my experience when I was in high school, so it wasn't even around the time when I was 7, when you could argue maybe I was just more susceptible to it at that age, right? This is in high school, and it wasn't like one time, it was every time for 3 years. You know, this is a house that me and my dad and my stepmom and my step siblings moved into at the Lake of the Ozarks when I was in high school, and I would go back and forth between my mom and my family in Kansas, where I grew up and where I went to school, and my dad, who now lived at the Lake of the Ozarks in this dope house, you know. But the house, because it's like on the lake and we go down to the dock and is built on like a hill, you got to imagine like a house built like that. A lot of these windows, even on the main floor, are still like 20 feet up off the ground. You know, and we're kind of in woods. If you ever seen the show Ozark, it looks exactly like that. All the B-roll was filmed at the Lake of the Ozarks, so there's trees everywhere, you know. And so I remember when we first got to the house, it was kind of like this house. Like, everything's perfect. Oh my God, we fucking love this house. It's amazing. Can you imagine when we fucking live here? This is going to be amazing. And I thought to myself, this is so good. It almost feels too good to be true. And isn't this how like horror movies start? That's what I thought to myself when we visited the fucking home. You know what I'm saying? And everybody, like, sure enough, a couple months later, they buy the house, we move in. And I remember as we were touring the home, after I thought that to myself, we toured all the bedrooms that could be potentially that me and the step siblings would have to choose from, right? And I said, I love this house. Just one thing, please don't let me have that room at the end of the hallway, because I don't know why, but every time I go into that room at the end of the hallway downstairs where our bedrooms would have been, I get really weird vibes. Like, I get scared. My stomach kind of curls up. Like, it's one of those feelings that reminds me of when I was a child. I would walk into rooms and I would kind of be overcome with a sense of dread and anxiety. You know what I'm saying? And that room did it for me. And this is like something that I've experienced to this day. And I've always kind of experienced, whereas like if I walk into a room that I don't know why, I just feel sometimes it's a bad energy. And that was one of those rooms. And it's like, it's night and day, like the moment you step out of the room, one of those deals. Right. And so sure enough, it was my only request, but it was a request that got ignored because I was forced to take that room at the end of the hallway. And so the stepmother, we'll just call her the stepmother at this point, she was like, hey, so, you know, since you're having that room, you know, why don't we just decorate it however you want it? So she came up with all these catalogs. She's basically trying to make up for the fact that it was the only room I did not want. So she let me decorate it however I wanted. Anyways, I go in there, it has all these new decorations in there, whatever. I made it like look like a basketball locker room. So I got some lockers and stuff. Well, anyways, like, it's built on a hill. My window in this bedroom is still like 20, 30 feet off the ground. And the only thing outside my window are trees. And then outside after that is water, you know? And so the first night I turn off the light, I turn off the TV that's in there. And for some reason, the tree, like, you can kind of see like the trees moving, but there's trees moving. And then there's a silhouette of a fucking just tall ass man standing there in a trench coat with a wide brim hat. And it's not kind of a silhouette. It's a sharp shadow.
What?
Oh, I thought I heard someone coming in the house, bro.
Oh no,
You're that just shows like how like I get jumpy when I'm talking about this, bro. Like it was the dog. I get jumpy talking about this. So it was a sharp silhouette of a shadow standing there outside the window. And I'm thinking to myself, that has to be the trees. It just has to be coincidence. So anyways, next day, don't really think about it. I turn on the TV because whenever the TV light was on, I wouldn't, the shadow silhouette wouldn't be obvious. I wouldn't see it. To me, it was like, it's not obvious.
It's almost like turning on the light in a room.
Yeah. But it was gone, but you could still see the trees waving, right? But just the silhouette is gone. Well, anyways, during the day, don't think about it. During the day, maybe a couple days later, whatever, maybe it's a week, month later, who the fuck knows? But the fact is during the day, now I'm on the main level and for some reason on the main level, it seems like it happens to me once a week. At least for the first few months that we lived there, I'd be turning like to go in a different direction on the floor. And when I would turn out of the periphery of my eye, real quick, I would see a shadow cross the outside of the window, but I would specifically be able to recognize the
brimmed hat.
And it would be a side profile and it would cross the window real quick. I'm getting goosebumps thinking about that. But that was like, it was always one of those deals that would happen during the day though. And these windows are also 20 feet off the ground and it's specific. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like it's like that. I might have even, I think the one time I specifically remember, like this is before I had even registered that it was like the same silhouette in my bedroom downstairs. You know what I'm saying? So, but I remember the wide brim hat. And for some reason, because I'd had these paranormal experiences as a child about 10 years prior to this, I just thought to myself, like, nobody ever believed me when I would talk about this shit as a kid. What reason would I have to believe that anybody would believe me about this shit? Especially if I'm the only one seeing it in this fucking house. And so I just always had the feeling that if I told someone about it or tried to show someone this thing, it would not be there. Kind of like you do a magic trick for the first time, you've been practicing, you show your parents and you fucking mess up.
Yeah.
You know, it was one of those deals, the same. And I thought to myself, it's going to be like that. The moment I try to show someone or tell someone, it's not going to be there. So anyways, I had my first kiss in this bedroom. I was in that bedroom for years, and specifically every night, as soon as all the lights were off, if you would see the silhouette, but if the TV was on, if it was just even a little bit of light in there, you wouldn't see it. What's interesting is about the Hat Man documentary, every picture of the Hat Man in the Hat Man documentary is verbatim, the same exact shadow to the proportion and the size and the detail, not like a interpretation of what people saw. It was exact what is repeated in this documentary. Mm-hmm. And in the documentary, it's everybody seeing the same thing. And everybody also said, and this is a detail I learned from the documentary, they said it's almost like it's affected by electrical signals, because if there's any electric things on in the room, it won't be there.
Here.
It's the moment that there's no electricity coming into the room.
That's an interesting. So it's almost like, I don't know, just like the electricity fucks with its appearance
or ability to
appear,
cross into this realm, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. So, anyways, long story short, several years later, I finally decide, I've verified this night after night after night for years. Usually sleeping with the TV on, so I don't have to worry about it while I'm asleep. And here's the other crazy part. Sometimes I would wake up and turn off the TV in the middle of the night, and I don't ever remember seeing it after I would turn off the TV. If I had gone to sleep and it was like hours later, you know what I'm saying? Like mornings coming up,
So it had in your bedroom specifically, it had like its time almost to show itself.
Like it would show itself when I was going to bed, almost for the purpose of scaring me. Who knows what the fucking motive was, what the purpose was. Well, anyways, I hadn't thought about this for years, right? The only reason I thought about it recently, especially since I started the podcast, is because I literally saw it on Amazon Prime and it gave me goosebumps instantly. I started watching this thing and 5 minutes into it, I had to turn it off because it made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. I didn't realize this was something other people had experienced. It was just something that happened to me when I was in high school that I'd never honestly really told anybody about, never really stood out to me because I would question my own, did this really happen to me? You know? And so the long story short, senior year of high school, Bobby's here at the house. And I said, you know what? Let me just fucking test my theory if it's going to not appear if I show it to someone else. So anyways, it's during the day. Bobby's down on the dock. And I think to myself, today's the day. I'm going to tell Bobby and see what happens. And so it was during the day. And I remember I went into my bedroom, all the lights were off and the shadows of the trees were still there. So it's still dark enough in the room. I turn off the lights and sure enough, I fucking see the shadow thing like I'd been seeing every day. It's still there even though it's during the day. So I'm like, okay, you're there. I'm going to go tell someone. Turn off the lights is there. I go downstairs to the dock, tell Bobby, say, hey Bobby, I got to tell you something crazy. You're not going to believe me, but I want to show it to you. He says, okay, show it to me. After I tell him about it. It's kind of a crazy story. It's exactly what I told you, right? We go upstairs, turn off the lights. Sure enough, it's not there. In fact, it's like shadows are missing. Now it's only fucking trees waving in the back. And I haven't seen it since. Now, see, that was what fucking made the noise. It was the fridge, you know?
Heard that. For a second, I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Right after I say I haven't seen it since. Well, I meet Danny and Clark. I start hanging out with him in the last year because Clark moves here. He moves in with his girlfriend, and I hang out with Clark. I hang out with Danny. I'd never met Danny until this last year. Danny tells me, because I ask her, I'm talking about paranormal stuff. I think we had already had a podcast by then. And I tell her about like, you know, yeah, I've seen some paranormal stuff. I've seen some crazy stuff. But have you ever experienced anything like that? And she goes, oh, yeah, I've seen a ghost. And I say, oh, really? Tell me about it. She goes, well, yeah, like I used to see it. It would like be a shadow that would cross the hallway in my house and I'd see it like out of the corner of my eye. My mom would also see it. Sometimes I'd see it in my bedroom. It had like this top hat and, you know, my mom even had sex with it. Like it raped her, it physically assaulted her. I was like, what? And it was such a crazy story to me that I thought, oh, top hat, interesting. But I didn't think, when I see top hat, I picture like Abe Lincoln top hat, you know? That's what I was picturing the first time. Mm-hmm. Well, anyways, months after this conversation where she told me about this, maybe 2 or 3 months ago, I DM her after we all hung out as a group, and I was just like, hey, just out of curiosity, like, is this the picture? Or I sent her a picture of like the Hat Man from the Hat Man documentary, which is detail by detail the exact same thing I saw, and I just shot in the dark. DM her the picture. Hey, just out of curiosity, is this what you saw at your house? Her response, oh my God, yes, that's exactly it. Like verbatim, exactly it. The same shape and everything. Like, bro, like, are you kidding me? So now this is another corroborated story of the same experience. And now not only am I knowing that I'm not crazy, now I know that the documentary wasn't fake. You know what I'm saying? Because Danny saw the exact same thing. And her mom even saw it, and her mom got raped by it. And going back to your question about like, do I think we were talking about dimensions and shit?
Yeah.
I don't even think this was a ghost. I don't think it was a demon. I think it was an interdimensional being, which is a fucking crazy thing to think about.
Why? So like, what specifically brought you to like outside of the paranormal and more like to the interdimensional being, I guess?
Well, you could argue that interdimensional is paranormal.
It is paranormal, yeah.
Right? Because it's outside of our normal. But what is normal? Normal is just our frame of experience. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because I feel like whenever they show the Hat Man, it always feels like almost like a demonic, like, you know, they make it seem like almost like a demonic presence, like spiritual.
I believe that what people interpret to be sometimes spiritual experiences can really be logical experiences that we don't currently know how to explain. So here's what I mean. The more I've looked into the UFO phenomenon, the more I start to believe that it could be completely rational, that the Bible is 100% true, but it was written from the frame of reference who's someone who's trying to describe flying machines and beings from the sky and calling them angels, when in reality it could have been an intelligent civilization, and there's, story after story in the Bible that if you looked at it through that frame of lenses, that frame of reference, you start to see the Bible in a very different way. And I'm not saying that the Bible is all aliens. I'm not implying that at all. To this day, I still pray because I grew up religious, and I've experienced stuff to where I don't believe those are aliens. And if they're not aliens, it's got to be something else, right? So I don't claim to know any of the truth, but I do fully 100% believe there is something else out there, whether it's aliens or interdimensional beings or ghosts or demons or angels. Whatever it is, it's probably all of the above. You know what I'm saying? But I believe that people who have seen that kind of stuff probably don't know how to explain it, and so they take it as a spiritual experience, So the reason why I say that is like people who have reported seeing the Hat Man they all report this sense of dread and gloom and like anger, or fear, not even anger, but just fear. And I almost believe that could be just an internal DNA human response
reaction
to something we genuinely don't know what's happening.
Na 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 na.